All right, Sierra Leone decides 2023. The All People's Congress has launched its manifesto for the June 24th polls. The manifesto is a plan of action for the party if it is elected into power. Let's take a closer look at what the manifesto has in store for Sierra Leone and Sierra Leoneans. The APC manifesto focuses on 10 key areas, including building one nation, rebuilding national unity and cohesion, addressing economic deficiencies, job creation, accelerates investments in people, physical and digital development, decentralization and rural development, democratic good governance and the rule of law, environment and climate change, economic diplomacy and partnership with diaspora for national development. The manifesto includes plans to create jobs that guarantee every Sierra Leonean adult a living wage. The APC has promised to create a favorable environment for small and medium-sized enterprises, which will in turn create more jobs. Now, with the launch of this manifesto, the APC has set out its vision for the future of Sierra Leone. The party's proposals are ambitious. As we inch closer to the elections, tonight, we ask the big question of how will all of these things be achieved if the APC is elected into office. My name is Samuel Wise Bangura, and this is AYV on Sunday. All right, good evening and a very warm welcome to AYV on Sunday here on AYV Television on Channel 33 and DSTV Channel 399 on Radio FM 101.7 and on all our different social media platforms, especially the AYV News Facebook page, where you have the opportunity to be part of the conversation. Share your thoughts, ask your questions, but there's always a plea. Ensure that you tailor your comments to the issues being discussed. And tonight, we are dissecting the One Nation Manifesto of the All People's Congress Party for the June 24th polls. And we always bring people who are in touch with the issues. And from the APC, I have the National Publicity Secretary, CD Yaya Tunis. Good evening and welcome to the show, CD.
Good evening, Samuel. Thanks for having me.
Right, from the University of Sierra Leone, one of those who we consider to be political scientists, Lena Thompson. Good evening, Lena.
Evening, Samuel.
Well, thanks for joining me here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, we're with the arrival of Rashid Dumbuya, who's a lawyer, but also doubles as the Executive Director for Legal Link, and lawyer Ibrahim Tomi from the Center for Accountability and the Rule of Law. Let me start off for obvious reasons with CD. The One Nation Manifesto has so many things that you've put together 10 pillar proposals for Sierra Leoneans to make decisions. How did you, as a party, arrive at the decision, first off, to call your manifesto One Nation and the 10 pillars that are enshrined in the document?
Well, thank you very much, Samuel. We looked at several issues bordering our country, and then also we based our manifesto out of well-informed, activities, engagement with our citizens across this nation. If you look at our country now, it has never been so deeply divided along political lines, along tribal lines, along regional lines. And we believe that as a party, if you are to aspire to build a nation, you must first of all have peace within the nation, and you must also have national cohesion, because you require the effort, the input, and the contribution of every citizen in order to be able to build a nation of such that we aspire to build as All People's Congress. And so that is why we decided to name our manifesto One Nation Manifesto. We are aiming to bring Sierra Leone back together, bring every tribe, every region, every district. It doesn't matter which political party you belong to. The focus has to be on merit. The focus has to be on qualification. The focus has to be on criteria, how much you're able to meet the criteria, how much you're qualified, and how much input you're able to make in order to develop Sierra Leone. So we want to give every Sierra Leonean the fullest opportunity to be able to harness their potential in contributing to building Sierra Leone. As it is now, you know the tensions, you know, across the country in terms of political divide. The South is not speaking well to the North. The West is not speaking well to the East. You know, and even in terms of appointments in offices, we see disparity in terms of, you know, certain tribes or certain districts or certain regions as far as representation is concerned. And this is very unhealthy for a country as small as us, and as a country as integrated as far as you know, tribal relationships are concerned. And so we believe it is necessary for us to focus on that. First, bring the country together, and then we aspire to build a nation that will be prosperous for every Sierra Leonean.
All right, so the 10 pillars in the document, how were they arrived at? Did you hold any form of consultation with Sierra Leoneans to have gotten an idea of their aspirations for the next 5 years?
Since 2018, we've gone right around this nation. Our presidential candidate, Dr. Samora Kamara, has been across Sierra Leone talking to people, engaging people. And we've had a series of engagements wherein people will bring concerns to us. And those concerns, one, inform the pillars that you see, and also our situation generally. From reports, you know, governance reports, reports from international organizations, human rights organizations, economic institutions. Those reports also inform our creation of these pillars. And then also beyond that, we look at the sustainable development. We want to create a country wherein we can see generational development. It doesn't matter which country or which government is in power. We want to be able to establish, you know, a vehicle that can only change the driver, but the motion will remain the same as far as development is concerned. And so we also try as much as we can to see how our development aspirations for Sierra Leone can align to the sustainable development goals, you know, set out.
All right.
And so all of those inform those 10 pillars. And as we go further, you'll begin to understand why.
All right. Let's quickly welcome Rashid Dumbuya, lawyer, executive director for Legal Link. Rashid, good evening and welcome to YVN Sunday.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm grateful.
All right, Lena, what would you consider as your precursory remark, having gone through the One Nation Manifesto of the All People's Congress?
Well, actually, I've just gone through it. So,
right.
So yes, it's nothing spectacular. As what I mean by that is it's nothing that we did not expect. Yeah. So it tells us the intentions as what it should do, but the issue, and we will actually talk into that, is how are they going to pay for all these nice things that are actually promised, and how do they go about implementing it? Because it's very easy for us to sit here, talk about these issues, have a 10-pager and so far, but the proof of the pudding is basically in a country like ours, how realistic are these actual promises? You know, because the thing about politics, it's about a game of selling yourself so that people would vote for you. Okay, that is the essence of this, that you tell the people what you intend to actually do. And sometimes it's an ideal. And the proof of the actual thing is that when in power, how would you go about, and how would you stay true to all these words in here? Because if we go back, we will look at, and we will look at what has been done, how many has been achieved. It is very important, because that is how you gauge a party. So for now, it's a promise. There are some interesting things in there, but at the same time, we have to ask the question, how are you going to afford to do it? How long? And so forth.
Okay. Rashid, I know before today we made an attempt to go into the manifestos of both political parties, but today we're exclusively looking at the One Nation Manifesto of the All People's Congress. Last week we did so for the SLPP. Now, what have you made out of the 10 Pillars One Nation Manifesto of the APC?
Yes, thank you very much, Samuel, and of course, by extension, AYV TV for the invitation. I see we're trying to have a default debate, manifesto debate, which I salute for the ingenuity you're showing, but I'm highly disappointed as a civil society activist. By this time, we should be having really a manifesto between the party, a debate in terms of their manifestos. Right. But that said, this ingenuity AYV is pulling out is also welcome, and we appreciate the time given to all parties to at least talk something about their manifesto, notwithstanding them perhaps being afraid to have a face-off.
Certainly.
Now, manifestos are very important. They lay the policy guidelines, the guiding principles of the party, and what they intend to achieve should they be elected into office. So we cannot downplay that. But there are several things, first, Samuel, that we must throw light on even before we go to the crux of the matter. First, we are disappointed again in the lateness of the manifestos coming out. Both parties are wanting of this. Less than 2 or 3 weeks ago, it's the time we're seeing this. So much is not really out there in terms of understanding this voluminous document that they're throwing at us. The elite are struggling. How much more the elite get? Illiterate population. So, and then coupled with the fact that they are afraid to now have a face-off to debate. So it's a mess. But let's take it as it is, and then let's see what we can do as civil society activists, as university lecturers and all of that. How we can come in to help mitigate the situation. So yes, you could see that the two manifestos are diverse in terms of priorities. I note that the APC puts priority on reconciliation and economic interventions, while the SLP is putting emphasis on food security, agriculture, and of course, human capital development. That is not to say both manifestos don't have also piecemeal, right, indicators around the two issues. But then let's be clear. There are many questions we want to ask, and I'm happy there is a representative from the APC party here. How did they go about this? Whether in fact it's they say it's a One Nation Manifesto, whether in fact there were efforts being made to get to the bottom, and the lists, of persons. Okay, you asked him already. Yes. All right, that's awesome. But then again, how much is it being sold at the moment, in terms of having perhaps town hall discussions with the very flag bearer himself? So it's not about people helping him now, because it has to come from him. That's why we really would have loved to have a debate with these two leading parties, particularly, so that they can tell us. People can size them and know that this is something coming from their hearts when they now have that opportunity to be asked questions by the common, masses. But then now we are void of that. We don't know to what extent it's in their hearts and minds to really go after this and then let it be tested by the population. So again, as in my opening remarks, perhaps these are the calls. We don't know if we have time. We have less than 3 weeks to go. I don't know how much time we have, but we need to see Samuel Kamara and His Excellency President Marabio take on, in their own little way, perhaps not necessarily face-off, but to talk about this themselves, not people helping them to cascade this manifesto. Let's hear it from them. Why do you prioritize peace and reconciliation at this time?
All right.
All right.
As you talk about the debate, the presidential debate,
yes,
we've seen flyers flying all over social media with the logo of AYV, actually issuing a date for the presidential debate. Now, whilst we appreciate the confidence and the trust given to us, it is also very important that we make things clear. In 2018, yes, AYV took the lead in organizing a presidential debate that brought, for the first time in the political history of this country, the APC and SLP presidential candidates under a single canopy to espouse their policies, which they did. And after, other partners came on board. But for 2023, moving forward, we have a registered committee called the National Political Debate Committee, headed by the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, Ahmed Sahid Nazola. The monk is the chair of that committee, and Marcela Samba of Campaign for Good Governance, the deputy. So that committee is now responsible to organize these debates going forward. So it's not just on AYV like in 2018 when AYV took the lead. So you must make that known.
Excuse me, Samuel.
Go ahead.
I think you have clarified that side. But I think I support
Rashid.
What Rashid was saying.
The call for the debates.
It shouldn't be one debate. There should be series of debates so that the people can actually see and hear them in each aspect of what is down here.
Right.
You know? So I think it should not be, we have not, all we hear out there is the campaigning and all that. But let us have the candidates.
A national platform for them.
A national platform, and it shouldn't be once.
Right. All right. I'm pretty sure the politicians are listening. They're following the conversation. So let's get to the crux. We have 10 pillars in the One Nation Manifesto. Now, on the screen, if my producer would get it on the screen for me now. Now, you have the first pillar that talks about build one nation, rebuilding national unity and cohesion. And what the party is proposing is that we shall take and local governance and ensure fair, transparent, and protected access to resources. Now, Sidi, this is what you're pushing for the first pillar, which you've prioritized in the One Nation Manifesto. The question is, how would you make this work? Elena was asking about how do you mobilize resources to fund all of these projects the proposals you've put forward. So let's start off with building one nation, building national unity and cohesion.
I mean, the first pillar pretty much is looking at the structural makeup of our institutions generally. And the ability to create opportunity, equal access to every Sierra Leonean. So, for instance, I mean, you don't have to be given an opportunity to have a job because you belong to a political party or you are, a supporter of a particular political party. We are saying it should be based on merit, on qualification and experience, that will allow you to meaningfully contribute to building your nation. And we're also looking at dominance in these institutions, and in order for us to be able to achieve this, we're also saying, let us legislate it. And that is why we brought in the constitutional aspect of it. Make it a law that in every institution, you will not have more than 25% of any tribe, especially in government institutions. So you don't have a situation where you walk into an office, for example, you have 80% of one tribe being staff of that particular office. You have to ensure that there is equal spread of the tribal makeup. And we are even making a commitment also that you start from the governance structure itself, the type of cabinet you give the nation, the type of ambassadorial appointments and all of these. And I don't think this first pillar will require that much of resources really to implement.
What's triggered this particular call where, for example, you're now looking at tribal audits, regional audits at governance level, be it the civil service, the public sector? What's really triggered this approach that the APC is prioritizing this? And how easy is it going to be if the APC is elected into power? How easy is it going to be for you to implement this, in the sense that over the years, we've practiced the politics. Many, Lena and others, have told us that the type of politics we've practiced over time is that of complementarity, where, people come, they've invested in the political parties, they've done all they could for the parties to win, and after the party would have won, they are complemented with positions, so it's never based on merit, but rather complimenting them for what they've done for the political parties. With that in mind, how easy is it going to be for the APC to implement this?
I think as much as I agree with you, but we have also never seen the level of state capture of institutions like we are seeing now. Just about every institution in this country, if you walk in, especially government institution, wherein jobs are being given, you know, with authority from maybe the office of the president, and you name them, you'll find out that you have a dominance of a particular tribe or region, and it is set in a very dangerous path for our nation. To a point that for the first time in the history of our country, we've had situations wherein people are being called into a hall, you know, at a particular institution or in institutions, and their names being called. And when you look at the makeup, you consistently identify certain names that they believe belong to a particular region or some districts. And then also, for the first time in our country's history, I mean, we've had, you know, transitional reports before, Samuel, but we have never seen transitional reports actually list names of occupants and their tribes as per jobs. And it is also setting a dangerous path to a point that we have seen a situation where in some institutions really had to now make tribe as a requirement, asking for name, address, this, and then tribe. We had to voice out for them to remove tribe again. And so we feel that under this current administration, the level at which we are seeing division in our country, we've never seen before. Yes, we agree. Jobs have been given previously, maybe on you know, affiliations and all. Mm-hmm. But we have also seen efforts in the past from other heads of states before this one, wherein attempts have also been made to reach out, just so that we have a semblance of unity, we have a semblance of inclusivity in the governments that we have before. And so we feel that this is the time that we need to stop this. Let us give opportunity to Sierra Leoneans, build this nation together, and so have a prosperous and sustainable development that we guarantee all of us Sierra Leoneans.
Lena, I know the trading of accusations for perhaps the polarization of Sierra Leone has always been there. Who is responsible for the division we see along political, tribal, or regional lines? But now the APC is proposing that they would want to take immediate steps to restore national cohesion, peace, unity in Sierra Leone, and how they would want to also foster equitable distribution of opportunities and undertake constitutional, institutional changes or reforms. How do you see this panning out?
Well, the One Nation, I think it's necessary actually, because it's ironic. The divisions that we see, the tribalism that is now at the fore, is caused by parties themselves. Right. So it is the responsibilities of parties to ensure that what they propose is based on a one nation ideology. But again, it is fine that we put it down on paper. How will that work in government? Because as you quite rightly say, we can speak the right speak, but when in the kind of this idea of winning, those that will be given jobs and so forth will be those that are in the party, those who are funded. And the reason why those, the reason why competent people do not take up jobs if offered is because they do not want to align themselves with any side of the issue. And because as soon as you take a job, automatically you are assigned APC or SLPP. And sometimes maybe they're not, but because they are good in their jobs, fine. So it is laudable that APC actually recognizes that we have to ensure we are 7 million people. 7 million people. We are smaller than even Lagos. So there is no need for this kind of rhetoric that is going on, the tribalism and all that kind of stuff. This is Sierra Leone. We have nowhere else to go. And it is the onus on parties, on leaders. In fact, it's not the leaders when their supporters are making all these kinds of rhetoric. It is up to the leaders to disassociate and say, that is not my thinking. So it is apt. I am pleased about that, but in the sense that what we have to ensure that what we put down on paper, we actually also act on. Important thing, it's not only about the tribe, it's about gender as well. Where are we in terms of gender? How many appointments are we going to get if they are in power? Because we have seen over the years all these laudable ideas about empowering women, empowering whatever, but when it comes to appointing competent women in positions, we don't see. They renege on doing that. When election, all of a sudden, women are important. So we have to ensure that not only we have a tribal balance, we tone down the rhetoric, and leaders have to ensure that their supporters disassociate and then, well, it is not my party, it's not my thinking. Because at the end of the day, what happened in Rwanda, we've seen examples. We've seen examples, and we've also had a war in Sierra Leone. We don't want it to go to that tribal dimension. So it's up to the political parties and their leaders to ensure this one nation kind of building unity is important. It is instilled in us because we, the people, are also at the issue here.
No, just before I move on over to Rashid, Sidi, let me come back quickly to you. As Lena was talking about, now, how the ownership of this document by every APC member. Now, I ask this question because Sierra Leoneans will not forgive us if we do not actually bring this to the fore. The fact that there's a social media video of one of your people, Nanette Thomas, declaring that Freetown is not for the country people. It's exclusively for the Creole, so this is their own, this is where, and that speaks to division. That speaks clearly to the polarization we've been faced with. Now, what does the party make of that, especially the fact that you are pushing, you've come out with a commitment to building one nation, using peace, national cohesion, unity, and all of that?
As National Publicity Secretary of our APC, I must say that anything, any statement, any action that support or promote or have semblance of preaching tribal, regional, or gender divide, we dissociate ourselves completely from such, because that is not the aspiration of the All People's Congress. We are pushing this because we believe in the ideology of every Sierra Leonean working together to build this nation. That is the foundation of our party. That is even what brought the APC party into existence. It was based on a grassroots movement, representative enough to involve every tribe in this country. The founding members include Creole, Timni, Mendes, Shabros, you name them, all who came together to form the APC to advocate for the common man. And that has been our ideology to date. And so we condemn anything that has to do with division, that preaches division or supports division. So that does not represent us. Just I mean, before you come in again, I'll go back to what Lena said earlier in terms of, you know, gender and even, but before that, you know, Samuel, the past 5 years, and I have to say this, we decided to really look at this because we have a situation wherein we have institutions, for example, that have become completely dysfunctional as far as we are concerned. You look at, you know, job opportunities, for example. In this country, we have the Human Resource Commission that is responsible to hire people, I think grade 7 and below. And then we also have the Public Service Commission that is responsible for employing people. So they look at your qualification, your vetting and everything. But I don't recall ever seen a letter under this administration of employment from Public Service Commission, not at any given point. Every single letter I've seen of appointments, whether directorial position, whether envoys, whether they've all come from the office of the president.
Are they not political appointments, apparently? They would say?
I mean, a director in a certain office can surely not be a political appointment. That is a technical appointment. Because as director, you are a technical leader of your office. I can understand if you make somebody a commissioner, or you make somebody an ambassador or special envoy. Those are political appointments. But the Public Service Commission was created to look at the upper echelon of our public sector employees in this country, so we are able to get competent people. For gender, even though we may go later, but I have to say this, even before the existence of the Gender and Empowerment Bill, the GWE bill, we already had it in our manifesto, our constitution, the APC constitution, that at any time we are in power, minimum 30% of all appointments will go to women. So that is a law in our own manifesto. So be rest assured that even by our manifesto itself, we are tied, we are committed. We have committed ourselves to making sure that women form part of our governance structure, our employment structure. And when you look at even the makeup of the APC party structure, we have a whole Congress of women that have similar structure as the national structure itself. But even where that structure exists, that does not, preclude them from aspiring for positions in the national office or regional offices. And when you look at the positions currently, in the South, for example, our chairperson for the APC is a woman. It's a woman. The deputy chair in the Eastern region is also a woman. So we are already implementing this, even at party level and at governance level. Now that we have our party constitution that has spoken to that, and we have the GWE bill, this constitution, this manifesto, is speaking mainly to the empowerment of the entire country, but with specific focus on youth, women, and persons with disability.
All right. Rashid, what's your take on the Build One Nation, or Building National Unity and Cohesion, which is being prioritized by the APC in the manifesto?
Yes, so the manifesto is clear on the 10 points they prioritize, beginning with national cohesion. I think I'll agree squarely with what Lena alluded, that national cohesion is key, unity is key, and no doubt our nation is highly polarized and divided along tribal and regional lines. Today we have the Southeast as well as the Northwest, created by, again, political actors, by their very admissions, by their very nuances and rhetorics out there. And it's a very welcoming goal, but then like she rightly said, the proof of the pudding lies in the eating. So, so let's see how they can roll this out, because again, I could recall studying in South Africa, looking at Mandela's life. It was a very tough situation, and there were the whites and the blacks, and then there was transition happening, and there was this whole fear about how would be the blacks will treat the whites when power changed hands, and Mandela had to sacrifice himself. So unity has a price. So it's not just enough to call for it in the manifesto, the price to pay for it is key. Mandela had to, before he left prison, he wrote in his book, The Road to Freedom, that before he left prison, he forgave himself, he forgave all those who had hurt him, and that was why he was able to lead in a united way. In fact, he wrote it in the book that if I had not forgiven myself and those who hurt me, I would still be out, but yet in prison. So it's a deliberate thing to do. How do we now wipe off this divide, this structural divide, this regional divide, to let Southeast also reflect an APC nomenclature. Let Northwest also reflect an SLP nomenclature. It will cut across not just saying it, but rolling out policies, deliberate policies, and going after those who are making hate speeches that tend to widen the divide. And of course, standing out as an example as well. Today, all of the politicians, I'll confess here boldly, have been wanting for this. We have had rhetorics from them, unfortunately. I mean, some tribal, some regional, and so they widen the whole divide. So that now is acknowledging that, and that there's need to pursue this. It's a welcoming move, but then there is much to it.
I know Sidi would love to come in on this, but let me just ask the question to you, and Sidi can come in after you would have responded to it. Now, it's an open secret, the allegation or political accusations, they are out there. And one of which that has been, the APC has been accused of, and as you push this rebuilding national unity and cohesion, is that charity, they say, begins at home. Now, they will only tell you, the only name that you would get from the national executive of the APC that is not coming from the north is CDI at Tunis. But all the other names are coming from the north. So I'm asking this question because the APC is proposing that they shall foster the equitable distribution of opportunities and undertake constitutional and institutional changes. So if these opportunities, I mean, the party is so serious about it, distributing it equitably. And now they're saying, wait a minute, how can that be done? When even your national officers, it is only CDI at Tunis. I mean, who is coming? So how does it work?
Yeah, so it's a legitimate discussion, and I had over. I mean, some media was defending that, and so he made a point that was justifiable to some extent by saying, well, it was an election outcome.
Right.
But then I was also not convinced with that answer, though legitimate, because again, let's be clear.
Yeah.
An election was done and people had to campaign, nobody was stopped, and then that's the outcome of the voters, I mean the delegates themselves. But then, so what we as human rights activists and experts will always want to see is how do you now form internal policies to deliberately, all right, get an outcome that may not bring such indictment to the fore. So that's a deliberate thing. So we call it affirmative action.
Right.
If you knew that if we go to this election, it's highly likely that Northwesterners will be voted for, then set some positions out clearly that this should go to Southeasterners. That's how you do it. You don't just leave it to an electoral outcome. Otherwise, people might go there and still have the biases.
The platform is open, everybody.
Yeah, so democracy also encompasses putting in place deliberate policies that will bring an outcome for minority groups to be represented.
Lena wants to come in.
Yes, that's
you definitely will respond after Lena.
Yes. No, but I think what Rashid is saying is actually true.
Okay.
In a situation like that, you have to be intentional about it. If you say you are a party that is representative of
national share,
it should reflect that. And I think in both political parties, I'm not only indicting APC here, but also SLPP, we want to see other people in the party. We want them to encourage, because one thing that they fail to realize, I don't know if they realize it, is that 55%, you cannot win it 55%.
With just the support of your tribe.
With just the support of your region.
Right.
You need other region as well. So you have to have that open arms to embrace all people. I think when we talk about tribalism here, there is nothing wrong in having your strongholds. We teach that. There's nothing wrong, because each in Europe and elsewhere, parties have where they... Exactly. There's nothing wrong. But the issue is, how do others outside of that stronghold, how do they perceive you? How do you encourage them to come in? That is the problem that we have in Sierra Leone, where people basically perceive APC North, SLPP fight, and we fight in the middle. The problem is, if you expose yourself, embrace everybody, it's, as I said, it's nice it's being done on paper, and you will hold them accountable for it.
Right.
Because another problem is that our political parties are not held accountable midterm. What have you done?
Yes.
According to, we will hold them accountable. So we should be deliberate about this. We do not want to go down the path of Rwanda. Therefore, in order to forestall that, we have to be deliberate about it, intentional, bringing others in, allowing the different tribes and so forth. And so it has a kind of a national face. Because I tell you something, especially when you talk about first-time voters, they are important. First-time voters, they are important. This idea of I am going to vote because my father is this, I come from this, it should long gone. It should be long gone, because at the end of the day, we all suffer. If prices go up, we all suffer. So we have to ensure that whatever they say, it has a national face on it.
Sidi, quickly.
Well, thank you very much. I wish, we had a situation wherein our party constitutions will allow us to implement affirmative actions. But let us also understand, and I know Rashid knows that because he's a lawyer, that we are bound by law that our constitutions must speak to the national constitution of our country. And let us not also forget that we spent 2 years in court because people thought the selective nature in which we appointed people into offices to avoid some of these things we are talking about, was against the national constitution of Sierra Leone. But I always say this, when you understand the constitutional makeup of the APC, then you will know that it is the most inclusive political party. And it is the most liberal political party as far as spread of power is concerned. Because it is the only party wherein delegates are spread equally among regions, districts, and constituencies. No one constituency has more delegates than the other. Every constituency is entitled to 8 delegates. And that goes up the list to the districts, the region, and so you don't have a situation like, for example, in the case of the SLPP constitution, wherein they allocate delegates by number of votes they get from a particular region. So naturally, if the Southeast votes less for you, they have less delegates. I think that is discriminatory. For APC, it is spread equally. All right. So what am I saying? I am Sidi Yaya Tunis from Southeast, a Mende by tribe. An election was conducted, for example, and I ran against 2 Northerners, right? The total delegate count in the APC as per the last conference, about 1,800 delegates. And I scored 1,300. So what does that tell you? That Northerners voted for me, people from Western area voted for me, people from the Southeast voted for me. And if you combine the delegates count from South and East, they have more delegates than the North, as per the APC constitution. So that should be the focus. How, competition is very, very difficult, especially when it comes to election, because then you have to be able to convince people more than just who you are, but what you're capable of, what you have to deliver. And, the voters always have what they look for also in people. So, those dynamics are very difficult. So that is why for some of us, elections are not always the best way of determining.
Let's move on.
If I can just touch one
quickly, a few seconds, please.
So, Sidi, so what we're saying here is how we could make things better and have an outcome that reflects a national agenda. So, nothing stops your party and, of course, other parties to go back to their constitutions and even do an amendment, all right, of same to now reflect certain positions to say, okay, because of this perception, all right, and these outcomes that seem to be in conflict with our national agenda, we are making this deliberate amendment to now say, okay, a quota must come from South and east, and then the quota from north. And I mean that will help to also.
Right.
Would the national constitution support that?
Well,
Yes. So long as it goes towards, I'm avoiding discrimination and ensuring equity. I'm sure that's.
Let's move on, gentlemen and lady. Let's go to the second pillar. It talks about on the screen, as you can see, it talks about address economic deficiencies and the cost of living crisis at the structural level. The APC is saying they shall restore macroeconomic stability and work towards transforming Sierra Leone from a consumption to a competitive production economy. This, they said, will include prioritizing private sector development, particularly indigenous businesses and rural communities, leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, other trade agreements, and harnessing the potentials of digital transformation. Sidi would love to help us to elucidate more on this particular proposal.
I mean, Samuel, there is no doubt that we have a challenging economy. In fact, I would say it is the worst we've ever had in our country's history. I mean, when you look at every indicator, from inflation to, you know, the depreciation of our leone as against the Guinean currency, the high cost of living. You talk about prices of rice, you talk about prices of fuel, talk about prices of basic commodities that, you know, will guarantee you and I a better living. You talk about high cost of transportation, energy, even housing rents. You know, all of those things and the economic indicators, as I stated earlier, are just so much that the people of this country cannot afford to continue, you know, under such, you know, economic depreciation as we continue to see under this current administration. And that is why, as a pillar, we are prioritizing, you know, addressing these economic issues to ensure that not only we have an economy that will aspire to seeing a growth trajectory in our country, but we also want to create a situation wherein we move away from being just a consumption country to a more productive and competitive country, and also to ensure that our people earn enough to be able to afford their daily sustenance.
What are the thoughts around transforming the nation's economy from that of consumption to one that is competitive production? Because at the end of the day, we've seen many politicians, political parties, they've advanced arguments about, in 2018, for example, different promises were made, different commitments were made as to how we're going to change our economy from fiscal to monetary policies. But we're still struggling. Many would tell you the nation's economy is still, we're still creeping. So what are the thoughts?
The fact of the matter is you also have to look at, you know, just from the example that you gave about promises in 2018, you have to look at also the people in charge.
And that includes the APC in 2018, though.
People in charge. Well, I mean, the APC did not win.
No, but we are also commitments.
But I must say that prior to 2018, the APC was in power.
Right.
And never had an economic situation this terrible as we have now.
There were 22 austerity programs announced by the APC.
Well, austerity doesn't mean a bad economic program. Austerity means taking measures to address economic challenges that you are faced with at a given time. So, you know, it also depends on who is in the driving seat. And that is why we say, as a matter of priority in making sure that we are able to achieve this, you first of all have to focus on the drivers. They must be competent. You have to appoint competent people to run this economy, to bring in doable solutions for what we are faced with now as a country. The fortunate thing that we have here is we have to look at, first of all, the one that we are giving the mantle of responsibility as our president. His experience in managing economies from, you know, difficult situations, his experience in managing public sector, his experience, you know, in putting together institutions that will ensure economic activities on a more, progressive manner. And we are not bringing in people that are novice, as we saw in 2018.
So you're banking on his experience in the sector.
We are banking on his experience and the experience of the team that will be around him, as we have promised the nation in this manifesto. You will not have a situation wherein, people will not have realistic solutions. And the thing also that we have seen lacking, throughout these 5 years is the absence of the private sector when it comes to decisions that have to do with our economy. Private sector is a big driver of any economy, of any nation. And we're seeing more private sector establishments closing or reducing because of the economic policies of the current administration. For example, the high tax burden that we see being introduced under various finance acts. All of these that are driving the challenges, excess spending, overseas travels, wage bills. These are all driving the negative economic indicators. And we feel, as we have put in our manifesto, we need to focus on that immediately. And especially addressing the issues of cost of living crisis. We were in, I think it was Moyamba, and this lady called Kadi came to Dr. Samara Kamara, and she said to Doctor, Doc, me a single woman, I get picking in 3. I spend on average 150,000 leons a day. For Allah able feed me picking them. Every day while I wake, rest price don't go up to a point we now they buy rest. Now we own village, almost 10,000 leons a cup. I mean, that was just an eye-opener for us. And that is why we are treating this economic situation very seriously, especially when it comes to cost of living, addressing cost of living crisis.
Lena, you've heard what the APC is proposing. Should they be elected into office come June 24th. But the economic issues they would address, because the party feels it has a competent economist as a presidential candidate that together with the team they will be able to fix these things, and especially the cost of living. How realistic is that, looking at global trend?
Yeah, well, I just hope it's instead of 3 months, it will be in 2.5 months.
Well, no, we will not go that route. I mean, 6 months in 2018, we've had the worst, and now 3 months in 2023, we will have a terrible one, definitely.
No, yes, I think for this election, and for the government that will come after this election, they have to sort out the economy, because APC or SLPP, they need to ensure that we have stable economy. The economy now is bad. We can actually blame that to external factors. But at the same time, it's the government that is in place. Your promise to us, if we vote, is to ensure that you do something quick to ensure that the Leone especially, it's in free fall, because it affects every single sector in here. But again, I want to see the specifics. What are the short-term goals? What are the long-term goals? So it is good that it is here. There is a lot of words here, okay, restore microeconomic stability, leverage in African continental free. What does that mean? What does that mean for the average person in the street that goes to the markets and so forth? What does that mean? So my problem with this, it is short on specifics. Short on specifics. What are we...
the steps to be taken.
The steps to be taken. Okay, the steps to be taken. What are your short-term goals? Your short-term goals, okay? Because it's all fine and whatever, but we need to ensure that come June whatever, if you're elected, that your main task is to ensure that the economic situation is stabilized. Because for any government that comes in, that is their priority.
So yes,
it should be their priority.
And I know, actually, just before you come in, let's go back to CD for a minute. Lena just mentioned that there are no specifics as to how the APC plans to restore macroeconomic stability and how you would want to use that to leverage on the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. And so you're also promising transforming or migrating from consumption to production-based economy.
How?
Now, what are the areas you would want to focus on? Are we going to see factories in water? What exactly are the areas?
Okay, so if you go
yeah.
deeper into the manifesto, but
yeah.
first, before I come even there, let me just address one thing that Lena said earlier about this global factor. I mean, the fact of the matter is, these are things that you'll have to anticipate when in governance. For example, in 2007, when former President Nkrumah came to power, in 2008, we had the worst commodity crisis and monetary crisis ever in the world. And that is the only time, in fact, that we've had the price of barrel of oil, for example, rose to $145 a barrel. But at that time, the government put prudent economic measures in place to be able, to address the situation so that the effect is not so felt on the consumers. And in 2014, we also had Ebola, which took us from a positive GDP to a minus 21 GDP. But then immediately after Ebola, economic measures were put in place, which was coined as austerity, that people now, so to address those issues. But what we are seeing is clearly a situation wherein people just do not know what to do to have our economic situation under control. That is the fact. Their monetary policies have been disastrous to a point that we now don't even know which money we have more of, whether the new money or the old money. I mean, the whole issue of not withdrawing more than $10,000, as business people, what do you do? And then the many burden on the tax burdens that led to so much
and
tax.
These are things you feel you can
Oh yeah, we
solve
can fix. I mean, we specify them all here in this manifesto. So, like for example, we categorize our economic response. We said first we establish capable economic management teams. I mean, these are just for short terms, as she demanded earlier. And then we also talk about prioritizing solution for cost of living, and we went on and on. But then if you go further, there are areas that we focus on that will lead us to a more productive nation. Areas of agriculture, having enhanced agricultural productivity, marine resources, for example, we have not been able to really manage that well. Even where we have all of these institutions established to do that, and even focusing now on digital, prioritizing physical and digital infrastructure. And these are all areas that we are looking at to transform our nation from more of a consumption nation to a productive.
So Rashid, what's your take on how the APC is proposing to address what they've referred to as economic deficiencies and the cost of living crisis at the structural level?
Yes, so let's be clear, it's an awesome indicator in their manifesto and very welcoming, given the fact that we are going through a lot in terms of economic issues. And of course, our economy is in shambles, no doubt. And price hike is on the increase, inflation, the issue of our currency, and food prices, and of course, fuel and all like. So it's very welcoming. And in fact, this is one issue in the manifesto that stands out, and many people are looking forward to what can be done to handle the economy. But I agree with Lena on this. It's about also letting us know in the short term what can be transformed that will impact positively on the economy. So for example, I mean, you could say in the manifesto, in 100 days, so the way it was packaged, perhaps that's confusing and not well explained. So in the next 100 days, we will reduce the price on fuel to 10,000. Tell us how you will do it. By reducing our subsidies and all these things, so we get, you must be clear on things that will, because fuel affects economic issues in many respects. People are want to hear, you will reduce the fuel for us. To what extent? And how will you do that? The issue of rice, you will bring the rice back to past 300,000 back, but how do you do that? People want to hear about these stories. So if you attend about macroeconomical issues, free trade agreement, it's big and ambiguous for the common man. The common man wants to hear stories about reducing the price of bag of rice, reducing fuel, and getting the dollar and our Leone currency value again to some appreciable level. These are the things. So tell us those quick fix in 100 days. That's why the manifesto is good, but you must have short-term priorities that you can hit on the run and then give us the impact, because economy is very important at this stage. So it's a welcoming indicator in the manifesto, but perhaps much needs to be said in terms of the way they tailored it to meet the short-term outcomes.
And the cost of all of those things.
Yes. So again, tell us you're going to increase the minimum wage, so a living wage, by how much? All right? And then how will you do it? I don't want to hear this kind of stories. Now, from if I can have office, all man, the least person will be paid 2 million euros. Now, how will you enforce that? You show us. So people can now know, okay, there is hope there. But then, if you talk about economic issues and then you're not telling us about the short-term interventions and how will you cost that, then we are confused a little. The macroeconomic terms, they are good. It's the right time for economics, but for experts and for lettered people, not necessarily for the common man.
It's called low-hanging fruits.
Yes.
Low-hanging fruits, short-term things that we can identify and see.
But are there quick fixes to the economy?
There's not a quick fix, but at the same time, you have to have that cushion. Because if people are suffering now, okay, you have to have that cushion, and you have to give them something to hope for.
Yes.
All right.
So we have actually made that promise that in the short term our priority is to ensure that we bring down the cost of living. That is our priority. What we will not do is, like we'll say, in the first 100 days, because I mean we have to be realistic. We want to be able to present this nation a realistic manifesto. We don't just want to make promises to score political points or to win votes. We want to be able to make realistic promises, and that is why we know the issues around the rise in prices have several factors. The fuel prices, the reduction of the value of the Leone as against the dollar, you name them. And that is why we say we will have to engage, because we have people, importers as well as partners outside. We'll have to engage them, both the domestic private sector and our major trading partners, on positive steps to rationalize the cost of fuel, electricity, public transportation, food, commodities. I mean, these are
just quickly.
These are areas of focus.
These are the critical areas many Sierra Leoneans look forward to be addressed. But are you also taking into consideration the external factors? There are also variables that are outside Sierra Leone's influence. So you talked about, for example, fuel price. That is never determined by Sierra Leone. You also talked about how, I mean, you can reduce the cost of living, be it on the rice, for example. And then those who export would say, you always, annually we spend over $200 million to import rice. But then the value of the dollar cannot be determined by Sierra Leone. So how do you take all of those things into consideration when
Samuel, I mean, let us be very blunt here.
Go ahead.
We also, in having these discussions, and that is why I said earlier that some of these things have nothing to do with what is happening in
the outside world.
The outside world. Because take our neighbor, Guinea, for example. You'll see they are affected by the same outside world. But their economic indicators are far better.
They're also producing far better than Sierra Leone.
Well, I'm coming. Far better than us. We were producing. Us up to 2018, our Leone was still more valued than Guinea. But what happened? When you come, you don't want to, governance we say is continuity. Even where you disagree with certain aspect of what your predecessor has done, there is a way you go about it. But if you come, you shut down your major production areas for up to 3 years, what do you think is going to happen to your economy? It's going to crash. And that is exactly what happened under this administration. You came in, you shut down all the mining companies, you created a lot of unemployment, you shut down the flow of foreign exchange for the country, you shut down the flow of export for 3 good years. So that is what drove our economy to where we are now. And that is what drove the dollar high against the Leone to a point that for the first time in our country's history, the Guinean franc now has more value, 3 times more than the Leone.
Right. Continue to stay with us. We're racing against time. It's 11 minutes downside 8. So let's go to the streets of Freetown, where our team went out. They sought the views of some Sierra Leoneans on the One Nation Manifesto. And when we come back, we have our live audience in studio. We'll have to take some comment from them and then move over to the third pillar that talks about intensifying efforts in job creation and the establishment of pathways for every adult, especially the youth and women, to earn a living wage. Let's go and take what Sierra Leoneans had to say outside.
Talk about the One Nation Manifesto. I think this is a cater for everybody, cut across the country, whether you be Minde, Limba, Korankor, Yalunka, any other tribe you belong to, on either religion or region, I think it's a cater for everybody. And honestly, for me, I would say a traditional thing. Whenever I visit in governance, you can say yes, the country can take a U-turn in terms of infrastructure and other areas then. In which they can always do good. And for that, make so many people and can miss them when they can go out of governance. Whenever the need arise and go out of governance, you can see so many people and can miss them. Now that's
first now about the economy. When we can select the economy, now in specification, because we all know say Dr. Samura now an expert in economy, now an economist. An academic doctor, PhD holder to be precise, with over 40 years experience. We go all side, and of course the terrorism will address them, and he go address them very quick. If God make him emerge victorious, we believe say he will win this election. What do you know? I believe say Dr. Samura Kamara, we see he emphasis say he will try for make a level up the economy. Of course, one of the first thing to this country, and the wage bill we the SLPP government campaign with, that the wage bill very big, and it disturb government not to get enough funds for support projects them we support people in the country. And that particular wage bill, I believe say Dr. Samura Kamara will look into that. We plenty money they go out. So some of them people who work for government will come back to the banks then, we then go to use for put down prices level up, support people them, especially projects them, would it benefit people in the slum? How?
Well, Samura Kama go do the great thing by God in your own power. He go do one. Anything but Samura Kama, he can ask God and God go direct him for lay do one. We not believe on anything like juju or waiting. Samura Kama go do one with God. God go direct him for lay do one for me. It's not easy because the tap them. The plenty as alone. But Samura Kama go do one.
Like a short one, I can tell you, the manifesto, of course, gets a guide. One nation, not say one tribe, one family, one particular individual, one political party. It's one nation manifesto. But I believe, say, with Dr. Samura Kamara, this particular manifesto, if we give Dr. Samura a chance, in the space of 3 years, Salone will be a better nation. So, like, me believe, say, the international connection with Dr. Samura gets with the IMF and World Bank and all that thing in day, with Salone, with different government that Dr. Samura don't work through, where they change their government in day, and they try for guide and their economic aspect. I believe, say, if this time around Dr. Samura Kamara don't come, for letting ask for the power, for letting people in Gyan, the presidency, for letting you do in you, I believe, say, we will get a better nation.
Looking at the manifesto as well as the experience of Dr. Samura Kamara, I believe, say, if we give him the chance for at least in all this country, he gets a long way for go, and the life of Sierra Leoneans will be better. And looking at the experience, both the economic wise and Musa and all on the past governments and the IMF, with that experience, I believe, say, this nation will be a better nation.
Right, those were views from some APC people with regards to the One Nation Manifesto and their belief in their presidential candidate. But just quickly, let's look at the third pillar, ladies and gentlemen. Intensify efforts in job creation. I'm sure they will get it on the screen. And the establishment of pathways for every adult, especially the youth and women, to earn a living wage. Now, through sustainable cross-sectoral interventions, we shall collaborate with local and international partners to create jobs while simultaneously reforming and capacitating the civil and public service to prioritize service delivery. CD. I mean, there are words here being used that to ensure that every adult, especially youth and women, earn a living wage. And the issue of job creation. We know that's a crisis in this country right now, job creation. The SLPP promised 500,000 jobs, 500,000 in the next 5 years. Now, you are proposing that every adult would earn a living wage. Now, how is that possible, taking into consideration our economic situation?
Every adult that is employed will earn a living wage.
Okay.
What we are basically saying that we have to review what we now call minimum wage. Mm-hmm. What we have come to realize is that as it is now, yes, people are earning minimum wage, but minimum wage is not enough for them to be able to live on it. For example, in 2007, when the previous administration came to power, the minimum wage was 25,000 leones. And the bag of rice at that time was, I think, around 65,000 leones. So you find out that your minimum wage will not even buy you a bag of rice. And that was increased to about 600,000 at some point, with a bag of rice of about 200,000 as at the time we left office in 2017. And if you look at the current administration, they said they increased that from 600 to about 800,000. We do not know if that has gone into effect, but the fact of the matter is when you look at our economic situation, you'll find out that, even that will be difficult to meet your needs, because in nominal value, yes, they were able to increase the minimum wage by 30%. But in real value, the minimum wage actually reduced by about 54%. And why am I saying this? $600,000 in 2017 was $80 if you take the exchange rate. And it could buy you far more than what 800,000 will buy you today, because 800,000 today is about $36. 600,000 in 2017 was $80. 800,000 is 36. 600,000, a bag of rice then was 200,000, 180, 200,000. 800,000 today, a bag of rice is 700, 800, in some places even more. And you heard my story earlier about the young lady, who, and that is why we say we're investing in our people. So we want to be able to ensure we create opportunity wherein, first of all, people will earn the requisite education to earn them high-paying jobs, jobs that are in demand, and also at the same time creating those jobs that are, would guarantee, higher salaries than we're seeing today. And we also should be able to rationalize the whole issue of wages and salaries, in fact. So you don't have one director sitting earning $6,000 and another director earning 2 million leones, them being same higher technical, so these are basically what we are looking at. So we want to be able to expand skills and development, technical training, and all for lifelong learning. We want to be able to deepen entrepreneurship and SMEs. And we also want to be able to provide sustainable jobs in productive sectors. We want to move away from consumption to productive country, and at the same time to be able to, have a situation where we're able to promote research and development, to our people. But the issue of investment is key in our people, and this is where young people, young entrepreneurship have to be given the opportunities, the platform, the enabling environment to take on these challenges.
All right, so, Lena, what's your take on how the APC is planning to intensify efforts in job creation and the establishment of pathways for every adult, especially youth and young people, to be able to earn a living wage?
A living wage. Again, if you want to ensure that we have some kind of stability in terms of the economy, you have to create jobs. You have to ensure that you have a conducive environment for jobs. And the problem with the problem now that we are seeing that we have a youth bulge. Majority of the population, the demographics of the population is youth. Yep. So you have those who have been to university or are coming out of university now, no jobs. You have those who have skills training as well, also no jobs. And then you have those who are unemployed, and then you have those who are underemployed, those people who basically have no skills, no kind of desire for a job. So there's a huge problem, and it is something that we have to address because it leads to social problems as well. We have seen the rise of push, of drugs and so forth. It is as a result of unemployment. Right. It has a social impact. So, and this is something I don't think the manifesto actually addressing in terms of drugs and all this kind of stuff. But any government, the priority of the government is to ensure that you create jobs for those who are coming out of university, of schools, and so forth. How do you do that? That's the problem. We don't have an economy, as you say, our economy is consumption. What we import more than we export. The majority of the jobs, the young people, I should say, and they are here, are the easiest thing for them to do is to buy and sell.
Right.
And all that kind of stuff. So how do we redirect them into areas where they have a living wage, they have a future? Because it's one thing to create a job, it's another to create a sustainable job. Okay? You can say, okay, we will have more Okadas. How sustainable is that? Would a man would be driving an Okada for the last 20 years? He might want to do it. Maybe that's his career, but to me, that's a stop gap into something. So we have to be able to invest in ourselves, attract investment, and it's not in worthy investments. And in that way, we have to ensure that our laws are there, and the environment for people to come in to invest are actually favorable. Because if we do not address unemployment, we will have potential issues. Some of the rhetoric that we hear now on social media is because of idle people, quite frankly. Because if you have a job to go to, if you have a family to feed, your priority is about getting up in the morning and ensure that you go to work. But there are so many gaps in our society, and the biggest one is unemployment. So again, these are low-hanging fruits. We have to see where are you going to actually create these jobs, what jobs are there, because it's very easy. I'll have a waska over there. That in itself, it brings its own issue. People have to be given something that they could look into the future and see. Sell us a dream. Okay, sell us a dream. Sell young people a dream. That is what they want. So tell us exactly what are these kind of jobs, where are you going to, because it's not all in Freetown. It cannot possibly be in Freetown. So you have to ensure that you address all these issues. Kids are going to, the idea that as you go to university, the jobs are not there. There are some people who have graduated 3-4 years, no jobs. And it's frustrating. So government or the actual political parties have to ensure that where are these jobs? How are you going to create them? Are they long-term? Are they, so these are all issues. So I'm glad it's here, but at the same time, we will ask, how are they going to do it?
All right.
So if I can come in quickly. I mean, she pointed out so many areas. And for us, in job creation, you also have to look at the skills. And which is why developing the skills itself, I mean, the skills themselves are a critical part of our manifesto. We're saying we expand skills development, technical training, and lifelong learning. And the reason why we are saying this, we want to be able to improve access to quality education at all levels, including vocational and technical training, so that individuals are better prepared to enter the workforce and contribute to economic development. And then we also say we enhance investment and vocational training programs with extended partnership with local and international partners. This is very important. The third one, revamp existing curriculum to equip individuals with in-demand skills that match the needs for emerging industries. And I think that is one area that really we have not done much in the past. I've had, you know, and that is why we are focusing on this, because it is one thing for people to graduate from college, but they also have to be in demand, you know, as far as your job market is concerned. So you have to be able to do all of this. And when you go further, we look at also, you know, investment in digital and technology. These are emerging markets, you know, coming in, creating high-paying employment for especially young people and women. And Samuel, when we go further down, we look at SMEs also. And then one critical part is we say we will create job placement and matching programs. When I was in university, for example, in the United States, even before I decided on my major, you had people at our universities who will guide you as to the opportunities out there as far as the job market is concerned. So maybe for the first 1-2 years of you being in college, you have not even decided on what your major is going to be. You know, because you're looking at all of the opportunities because you're guided and you're able to be in place. So we are focusing on these areas because we know when we address the area of skills development, lifelong training, will prepare our young people for any job market that will be out there as far as employment is concerned.
Rashid?
Yes, so the issue of investing in job creation is key and it's important. I studied their manifesto, it's quite comprehensive in that regard. But I had some challenge in the area of moving from minimum wage to living wage. Again, specificity to what living wage, what is a living wage? What amount are we talking about here? Okay, as a minimum, you know, and it's key, and I disagree respectfully with CD. You know, when you are wooing the public in a manifesto and trying to take over the reins of government, you have to be very targeted. So you have the broad manifesto, but in the manifesto there are priorities and short-term goals. We saw it in Trump, Donald Trump. Donald Trump came and he said, build the wall. Everybody knew about Trump, build the wall, I will build the wall. So he got the whole nation to say, we are going to see a wall. So yes, there were other things he was focusing on, but he had one priority to say, I will go build the wall. And by Koma, when he comes to office, he will light Freetown in 100 days. And he did. So you have to have that specific, and you must name it. It must be a mantra. I'm going to ensure that this happens, and this is how I will do it. So it lives with you, and people are enthused to say, okay, we are going to see something happen in the next few minutes. So that perhaps may be lacking in this minimum wage to living wage. Let people see, okay, it's 3 million. I will take it to 3 million or 5 million for the minimum wage earner in Sierra Leone. So everybody's expected to say, okay, no sooner this party comes to power, this will be my minimum wage. You have to incentivize the people. That's manifesto. And be realistic about it so that when you come, you pursue it. We could not believe that we will have light in 100 days under the by Koroma. It was very tough. And it got many companies to come, and then we saw light. Of course, there was issue of sustainability down the line. But then you have to get people incentivized. That's what manifesto is about. And let's see the clear-cut goals. So it's not necessarily a wrong thing to say, well, we don't want to be, too over. No, you have to. A manifesto demands that you show us the short-term goals and then the low-hanging fruits that you can give us in 100 days, and we can now assess that there is hope, perhaps in the long run. So yes, I want to agree that it's in place to have the job creation, but it must go further now to give us specificities in terms of how we get this done.
Yes, Lena.
I just want to actually point out something. In our economy, it's mainly based on the informal sector.
Right.
What I would also want to actually point out, how are you going to create jobs to move these people from the informal sector into the formal
formalize
sector?
them.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay,
all that. Just note that down. I'll come back to you to respond to that question. Let's quickly turn the microphone over to our live audience. And we'll give 30 seconds, please. And we'll also prioritize women. The women in the room. So please, if you have a comment or a question, you just raise your hand. Tell us your name when you are given the microphone, and you go straight to what you want to say. We start off with a woman. You have a woman very close to you, Suri. Yes, please go ahead. Please be audible. Please be audible.
Good evening, viewers. Good evening, listeners. My name is Ambassador Yeli Bangura. My question here is on Pillar 1. Now, the One Nation, unity and national cohesion. How will Dr. Samuel Kamara ensure that is reflective in the cabinet and MDA?
All right. CD is noting that down. Yes. Quickly, so you have to ensure that you give the microphone to those.
I am Abubakar Ibrahim Kamara. The One Nation Manifesto, the phrase One Nation is very much more attractive. I think that is what attracts me to come to this program. It is very much more clear that there is a huge problem of cohesion And with the One Nation Manifesto, it is very much more clear that in Sierra Leone today, there has been regionalism, tribalism, and so on. And as a result, getting access to job opportunities depends on who you know and not what you know. And my question is now, how, in an event, Dr. Samura Kamara assumed the presidency, how did he intend to bridge the problems of cohesion? Second, how can he assure Sierra Leoneans, especially the young generation, should he assume governance, that he will grant job opportunities based on connection-free, tribal, and regional lines?
Thank you. Thank you. So we have to make it very short, please.
Yes, sir. I am Said Mohamed Kanu, student of IPAM. And I want to ask a question on the area of the Pillar 2, which is fixing a collapsed economy. And agriculture is one of the major drivers of riding out a smooth economy. We have seen series and chains of policies from the past regime, I will say, the just expired regime. We are in the area of the Tumabum rise, the policy in political appointees, wherein it was clearly made that for a particular individual or a politician to be appointed in specific position, there must be evidence of you being in the agricultural sector. But having seen this, we have not yet seen all this thing applicable in reality. So what are the specifics in the One Nation Manifesto that seeks to address that? Secondly, in the area of Pillar 1, rebuilding national unity and cohesion, we have seen the Bintimani III Conference, the restoration of the National Council for Civic Education. But yet still, our nation is still paralyzed. So what are the key areas that seek to address these issues in the One Nation Manifesto?
Thank you. Yes, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Roberta Fatmata Kamara.
Can you please forgive me? Please stand up so that we'll be able to capture you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Roberta Fatmata Kamara. My question here is, what are you going to do as a civil society activist in ensuring that we have a credible and fair election come June 24?
All right. Though we are not discussing that here tonight. So the plea, I know, yes, you would answer, but we're racing against time. We're racing. Yes, please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody and viewers. My name is Hawa Kaloko. In the area of job opportunities, the increase of prostitution in this current regime is high. As a government in waiting, what are your strategies to shut down prostitution?
All right, we'll take, I think, at most 2 more. Yes, go ahead.
My name's Ibrahim.
Please stand up, Ibrahim.
Good evening. My name's Ibrahim Sayoture. My question here is on Pillar 2. In as much as Dr. Samura Kamara, our next president to be come June 24, is willing to address the issue of economy, how best is he prepared in order to ensure to fight corruption? Of course, we know over the years that corruption has been one of the impeding factors that has been hindering the progress of our nation. And also, we have all seen it from the this current administration, who is just rendering a lip service, but not living up to the expectation of the people. So we want to see how best he can address those issues. Thank you.
Okay, you give, yes. He was the first to raise it.
Good evening. I want to make clarification. First of all, Mr. Rashid, as you earlier mentioned, that the All People's Congress should set up some certain positions for the Southerners, the Northerners. But I just want to tell you that giving short an opportunity to that extent will kill political ambitions. For an example, Mr. Tunis is a Southerner and he is the National Publicity Secretary for the All People's Congress. If now, short a political party decided to leave that particular position only for the Southerner, what about the Northerner? If somebody might wanted to aspire for short position, how could he or she get short an opportunity? And I want you to realize the fact that it will lead to disunity among political parties and Sierra Leoneans. It will also kill political ambitions. regionalism, and tribalism as well. Mr. Tunisia, as the National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress, and I also want to recollect the last time citizens are saying that they will not come out June 24, 2023 to vote. As a result, majority of the politicians, they can only use their manifestos as the fundamental tricks just to persuade citizens of Sierra Leone to vote for them. But when they assume power, they never reflect their mind based on their manifestos. I can still recall in 2007.
Is that a question?
Yeah, I wanna ask.
Go to the question.
Yeah,
please.
all right. Sorry. Okay, sorry. And Mr. Tunisia, as the National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress, how can we Sierra Leoneans believe and entrust the All People's Congress manifesto so that we'll come out in June 24th, 2023 multi-chairs election?
All right, thank you. So we'll take a final, you give the lady. She's the final contributor for tonight. Yes.
Good evening, good evening, viewers. My name is Nayeli. This is a book for Yaya Tunis.
Yeli, if you don't mind, take off your cap, please, so that we will see your face clear one. The one we didn't always need for see you. Yes, go ahead.
All right. I would like to ask, you say, what about the strategy or step that you said earlier, that 30% of job opportunities should be given to women, and how women empowerment should be led?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we come back to our main studio where we have Sidi Yaya Tunis, Leonard Thompson, and Rashid Dumbuya. So Sidi, there are questions there for you. Job creation, is prostitution, banning prostitution, is that part of the plan?
Well, I think what we have to do is ensure that we create more opportunity for young people, for women, and for the nation as a whole. And that is why for us, job creation is paramount and is key. And investing in our young people is very, very much important. And one of the promises that we have made to young people in this manifesto is that in addition to investing, to reviewing and investing in the free quality education or the free education, because the quality aspect, we have to address it. We also have to focus on people in higher institutions or tertiary institutions. We have noticed that quite a good number are dropping out because of fees. And it is our commitment that as long as we are in power, no student in a university, college, or any tertiary institution, including vocational institution, will drop out of college because of fees. No student. We'll have to foot that. And we're also, for Lena's question earlier about formalizing
the informal sector.
Yes. So investment in small businesses, especially indigenous or local businesses, that is one area also that we have made commitment in this manifesto that will invest in people like those. Like, for example, if you're an Okada rider, you're doing well with your Okada, will invest to make sure we actually turn that one single Okada into some enterprise. So you have more Okadas where you're employing more people in a more formal way, so that more job is created and more revenue is earned for people that you employ. So these are some of the things we have promised in this manifesto. Somebody asked about
I think fundamentally, because we're racing against time, most of the questions are, what's the level of commitment or assurance would you want to give to these youth that the things being promised in your manifesto would be implemented so that they can benefit?
Fixing this economy and creating a platform wherein whatever development strategies that we are starting will be continuous is the utmost priority for us as a party. Right. We have seen situations wherein good policies are started, implementation of actions are started, our countries are on a trajectory, growth trajectory, and then all of a sudden policies change, and then we are back to zero. And this is exactly what happened to us in 2018. No matter what you say, we were shooting higher as a nation. And because of some of the policies, both monetary, fiscal, and economic policies of this administration, we found ourselves in this situation. For example, Samuel, we spent $60 million. $60 million, according to our bank governor, to bribe hoarders to get foreign exchange from the street. Do we know to this date, for the $60 million that we invested to bribe them, how many were we able to recover? What is the value of the dollar we were able to recover from those street hoarders?
All right.
We don't know. So that is the way. So those kind of reckless spending has led us to where we are today as far as the economy is concerned. So it's not really global or external factors.
We also have people who are following us online, and they've also contributed to the show. Unfortunately, I know you have a question, but I'll come to you. Unfortunately, I have to apologize because time will never permit us to go through all the messages you've sent, hundreds of them on Facebook. We'll just go through few of them, so please forgive us. But we value your input, and we'll also always solicit those inputs, because sometimes we cultivate our ideas around what you send in the show. So let's join Sori Ibrahim Amara for some of the comments you've sent in the show. So, Sori, good evening.
Good evening, Samuel Rice Bangura. Thank you very much for having me here. Some of the text messages that I've dropped in our inbox this evening. The first one reads, "Hi Samuel, are we not having presidential debate this year?" And it comes from Asan Jallo. Another one here reads, this one say, "Good evening AYV. I would have loved if you would have invited Andrew Lavalley of IGR for us to have the manifesto meter from him." And it comes from Abubakar Rashid. Another text message here reads, this one is from Jonathan Salumbobo Sima. And it says, "Achieving national cohesion is one of the state goals of Dr. Samura Kamara in his manifesto. It will come about when leaders with a sense of legacy take the reins of government and build something bigger than themselves." Another text message here is, this one said, Joseph, and this came from Joseph Madalahai. "Look at APC talking about one nation, complete irony of their natural being." This other one here comes from Aliyu Madi, and it says, "Conducting a debate is just a way of eliminating Dr. Samura Kamara. He has no benchmark, no clear message. He is not even well grounded with his manifesto." And this one say, "I saw a social media video where Chief Sam Sumana is venting that he was not invited at the One Nation Manifesto launch. Queen Konomani was also sidelined. How true is it?" And it came from Eddie Grant. Another one here reads, say, "I believe in the leadership of Dr. Samura Kamara to bring a total positive transformation in our nation economy."
I beg you to take 2 more messages, please.
Okay, sir. And this came from Abdul Genius Sese. And this other one here is saying that All People Congress is the only responsible political party that is progressive in terms of our economy. And this came from Gustavo Cano. And the last one here is, this one say, "Rashid, may God bless you for your inputs, for your good contribution." And this one comes from Asan Jallo. These are some of the text message we have in our inbox this evening.
Many thanks indeed, Sori Ibrahim Amara, for reading some of the comments. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we have been dangerously chased by time. So Rashid, I'll start off with you. And you know, we've gone through some of the pillars.
Yes.
We're even yet to go to 50% of the pillars in the manifesto. And time is telling us that we cannot go further. But as we try to wrap up the conversation, now, what would you consider to be the reformatory way forward in ensuring that the commitments that are being made by the political parties, well now in this case the APC, that these commitments are things that are enshrined even in the attitude and actions of those that are propagating these commitments?
Yes, thank you very much. I'll come to my last word, and then let me just quickly still and answer 1 or 2 questions that were posed directly to me. So one on affirmative action. So it's always welcoming in a democratic society because there are things that cannot be solved easily if we don't embark on such. That's why we passed the Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Act. We knew women will not have much representation in parliament if we let it like that. So we have passed a law to say they must have 30%. It's a way to just help minority groups come to that level. So in a constitution, also you are allowed to float affirmative actions that will help to, at the very least, deconstruct stereotypes. Those things that would ordinarily not, be arranged if you don't have those kind of affirmative actions. So it's not a way of saying other people will not have their thought position, but it's saying that at the very least, we must have 3 or 4 people come from this region for these positions. It's not a way to say you're being discriminating against others. They may still have other positions that they can vie for, but we are saying in a way to bridge that gap and to help ensure a national agenda. You have to be strong in affirmations and then see what happens. That's why we passed the GWE Act. And let me move quickly to the civil society question. It's very important. And to me, I said a few days ago back in this station that the civil society in this country are not helping at all. We have been quiet and we have not been standing up on key issues that will help to push for national development and cohesion in our country. For example, we must have a debate. It's something, whether you're an APC person or an APC person, it's irrelevant. We must join together and say, we demand a national debate by these people as they give us their manifestos. But that's not happening now. Everybody's quiet. That's why, again, we see Adebayo's voice is loud in our nation. So I blame the civil society because we are quiet. Now, one boy out there is just taking over the nation and directing things. Right. We don't like it, but because we are quiet, it's happening. So we must blame ourselves for not standing up for the people of Sierra Leone. My last word will be, it's a good manifesto. There are many things there, even on climate change, environmental issues. So it's now about them selling it out and making sure they have specific goals that will be low-hanging fruits, that will be short-term in outcome, and woo the people of Sierra Leone in explaining it very well and letting even Samura come to meeting like this and explain it in a better way that will make everyone understand what are the specifics in this, broad objectives he has set out. So again, it's the same for SLP. I'm calling on them as well to do likewise. They have also a beautiful manifesto, but they have to tell us the specifics and how we could see the short-term goals and low-hanging fruits being actualized in the not-too-distant future.
Lena, what's your parting shots on the manifesto?
My parting shot is that I have browsed through actually both of the manifestos, and I can say they are very wordy, very wordy. What I would want them to do, as you rightly say, is for them now to sell it, and to sell it in the most simplistic kind of fashion, so that the ordinary man in the street can understand. Because we are in a situation where it is not a quick fix. And people have to understand that we have to tread a very hard road, whether APC or SSP. So let us not fool ourselves, okay? Let us not fool ourselves. What they are telling us that these things are fine, but at the same time we have to realize that it's a very hard road. If you want to fix the economy, it is very hard. It talks about housing and all that. So there are some good things in there, but at the same time, as I said, we have to have short-term actual goals. Importantly as well, the onus, why should we leave everything to the parties? The onus are on us, the Sierra Leonean people. We are having an election. We are having an election where people are competing for it affects us. Okay, it affects us. So we should demand that they come here and argue their case, put their case forward. Okay, because what we normally have is us like talking heads coming here and say, well, this is what they said and this one. I don't know why they're afraid to.
We look forward to that national call, and hopefully AYV is always open to accommodate that. AYV is always open to accommodate that. So we look forward to that national call being answered.
At the end of the day, it is here whichever actually wins, we should have a midterm audit, so to show that what you have achieved and what you have not achieved.
All right.
We, the people, have to hold them accountable.
Sidi?
Just to be very clear here, our presidential candidate has not and will not refuse a presidential debate. As long as the others commit to it, he's prepared and ready anytime for a presidential debate. And, you know, I want to assure the people of this country that we have put together a realistic manifesto that is focused on changing the lives of the people. That is why our focus is investing in people and taking on developments that will be sustainable. You will not find promises such as constructing 200 schools in 5 years, 50 factories in 5 years, 2 million jobs in 5 years, 500,000 jobs in 5 years. You will not find those in this manifesto. But what you'll find is us making a commitment to our young people. None of you will ever drop out of university or college or any tertiary institution because of tuition. No businesswoman will stop doing her business because of startup fund or because of funds to grow her business. We will start on a more realistic path to creating jobs for the young people, for women, by starting with one factory, one district policy. These are specific areas we are focusing on, and we'll fund all of these. We have huge opportunities in mining, marine resources, agriculture that we have not harnessed. We are spending a lot of money, giving a lot of money away in mining tax incentives. All of those loopholes will have to narrow to raise more revenue to fund these promises that we have made to the people of this country, especially our young folks and our women. In terms of women empowerment, we are not just looking at creating opportunities for them, we are also looking at their protection.
All right.
Protection against sexual violence, sexual harassment, and all.
All right.
We have 30% now. A lot of them are contesting to be members of parliament, and already we are seeing the level of harassment, intimidation they have come under with impunity and with no proper action to protect them.
Thank you very much, Sidi Tunis, National Publicity Secretary of the Opposition All People's Congress Party, Leonard Thompson, lecturer, political science at Frabe College, one of 3 constituent colleges of the University of Sierra Leone. Thank you very much. Lawyer Rashid Doumbouya, Executive Director, Legal Link. It's been a pleasure having all 3 of you here tonight, but also I appreciate and I've enjoyed the privilege of your time. You members of the live audience, thank you very much for being part of the conversation tonight. Until we meet again here next week on the same show, AYV on Sunday. My name is Samuel Wise Bangura.